So, hi everyone, we're going on in our marathon talking about all the pieces that make us have based decision, which so ultimately brings to us outcomes that are not the ones that we like, and so affecting our life in the fields that we most like to perform, as is in the wealth, in health, in relationships, family, and in jobs. And what's gonna be the bees that we're gonna talk today? And this is the one that happens a lot in all the fields wherever it is entertainment and all the other ones that I already have declared. We're gonna talk about regression to the mean. It's one piece that people sometimes they tend to forget that regression to the mean is what should be considered as normal and not what so is the and not neither sometimes people perceive that the mean is what so should be considered as the normal and not the kind of what it declared as the outcomes that are like considered the outliers, that sometimes people kind of be too much attached to it and not understand then the reality is the average. They don't understand that the meaning of the word average is what the majority of people will perform at that level. And then sometimes are a bit like out of touch, and then sometimes some type of frustration can happen. All the type of feelings comes a majority with this type of lack of or the gap between expectation of and in what happens in reality. And then so a better question to illustrate it: ever had an amazing win or a shocking loss, only to find that the things seem to go back to the normal the next time? That's because of the regression to the mean base, one of the most fascinating and often misunderstood concepts in statistics and human behavior. And then definition has a tendency for extreme outcomes to return to average over the time, but the base is understanding that this is not is like people understand that this should not happen. Well, the reality, this has to happen. So simply put, unusually high goal results are often followed by more typical, but people perceive it this followed by a typical and this sort of regression to the mean as something that should not be happening. So what we have to understand is when something unusual happens, whether it is a crazy win or an unexpected failure or an exceptional performance, statistically things will often balance out over time. But what happens? But we must interpret this as flux or trend changes when in reality is just the law of average at work. It's just and basically that. Best examples. One of the best ones I can see it's in sports performance. And then the first examples, source performance, a player has an unbelievable game, scoring far above their average. But in the next game, they score close to their usual, like the average performance. What happens? Fans and analysts often think the player is in a slump, but it's just regression to the mean, a natural shift back to the player's typical level of performance. We should not consider some type of performance that the player have as their normals, and they should not be characterized based on what they perform as best. I'm a fan that people should be seen as what they perform in average, obviously in situations in context that matters. Example 2, real estate prices. If a house sells for much higher than similar properties in the neighborhood, the next sale will likely be closer to the average market price. We might mistakenly think it was a hot market or that prices have spiked permanently. In reality, it's simple regression to the mean, because a mean is not meaning that everyone's gonna score and everyone's gonna so have always the same quantity as the average. What happens? The mean is the average of the sum of all the quantities of people that have scored divided by the number, which so means that if the average from a player to score in a basket game is like 50 points, or like obviously exaggerating, but it's 50 points, this doesn't mean that everyone's gonna score 50 points. It probably means more than someone's gonna score 50, other one's gonna score an average 75, while other one's gonna score an average 25. It's the sum. It's not meaning that everyone is gonna so have a tendency to precisely be equal to the mean. It's equal that the sum, the average, and division so by the number of the attempts that I have scored, that I have so rated, then gonna go equal to the mean. So what do you have to understand that sometimes we feel to get too much attached when we see something that kind of have a distortion about in comparison. So what's the mean? And we tend to think that probably is because it's creating a new tendency. The market is changing. The player has become really much better. When in reality, probably afterwards that this player gonna score under so the mean, and then we're gonna have a balance in so the mean average. That's something that's more deterministic to characterize the player other than just specific phenomena and events that happen. Other things, business success, another one. A company has outstanding quarter, maybe due to a one-time big deal or event. The next quarter's results are back to normal and people overreact, assuming the business is no longer performing well when it's actually just returning to its usual level. It's reference level. People so get sometimes they kind of probably can get over attached to a specific small change and assuming that's already meaning of a new tendency, and then they happen to back to the normal and people act as the normal is what was rare in the past. And then when you're more susceptible to regression to the mean, obviously after extreme events, after experience extreme events, whether it's crazy heroine or devastating loss, people often expect the next result to be just as extreme. This happens a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. That one is one of the best type of things that could describe this regression to the mean biz. When we focus in short-term results, this is something that sometimes as well can happen if happens the last hero, the hidden death, if just have the survivorship biz. That's the tendency. It's like seeing a business and I've got so business, I've got like a SES and I've just got so the hidden data. Then I've seen the successful business, they have like in average the IQ of people that works in there are like 150. And then what's gonna happen? Probably I assume that it's something that should be the normal for all the people that works in a business, while in reality I've got like example of extreme factor, and just so because I've not got access to other type of data that could me make so a better average than just so using to take conclusions just small tiny part of the real total population that exists. And then so when we focus in short-term results or as well in short in terms of quantity of so the whole large was the sample that I have got. When we make predictions so based in outliers, if we base future expectations on extremely high or low outcome, we're ignoring the natural tendency of things to return to average. It's like a tendency that we have, it's something that happens, we understand it, we tend to attach what is extreme, it's something that's more remarkable, and we tend so to overestimate how they're deterministic to so be and what's going to be the meaning that it has to determine the future, and then so accepting that these extremes happens, they're extremes that they don't confirmate the that law doesn't exist, they are something, they're the exceptions that confirmates the law that is so the meaning being more representative for thinking decisions than so the extreme outcomes, whatever it is for higher or too low. And then how to overcome. Understand the law of average, recognize that extreme events are outliers and things tend to normalize over time. But how to understand what is outliers? By getting the enough data to understand so what is the outcome, what are the outcomes that are so the outliers and what's normal. So we need to get a good vast majority of data to understand what's normal or not. If we just get a tiny, it's probably so to us to not have this ability to distinguish what is the normal value for a specific type of parameter in the population and what is so is the extreme most normal. And then as well long-term trends, avoid drawing conclusions from one-off events, instead focus on patterns over time. Be cautious of big wins or losses. Extreme results often look like the start of a trend, but they're just random variations. Use that in statistics, so is as well other way. That's why it's good to B and have a specific formation in this specific science, use average data to help predict more accurate outcomes instead of relying on outliers. That's because what? Because being less busy makes you have less busy decisions, which so kind of decrease the probability of bad outcomes. Patience is the key. Success or failure usually follows a natural rhythm. If things improve or worsen dramatically, don't panic. It's just temporary. To be something that cannot be considered temporary has to kind of have a specific trend that has happened over the time that makes you to redefine what is the status quo. And then I expect these videos helped you to become a better person, and I kind of expect you as well to help me by subscribing and seeing other videos. See you in the next one.